What's good, Internet? It's your boy Corey from the Hardwood Herald, and we have a very special guest today. We got Rashad Phillips, draft expert, and somebody who I believe is changing the game when it comes to the sports media business. So today we're going to get into, hopefully a little bit of your background, for people who don't know, and how you got to where you got to and where you're going to be going moving forward. So start it off. Tell me, what was the idea behind Sports Talk 2319? How did it come about? Just a little background.
Yeah. First of all, I appreciate you for having me on your show. It really means a lot that you reached out to me, and anytime that I could support and see what you're doing, it's always a pleasure. So I just wanted to say that first.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
you're welcome. But just starting Sports Talk 2319 for me, obviously having a playing career in basketball, not just a playing career, but a very successful playing career. I got to the point where I went to college for communications. I've always wanted to be a broadcaster and communications and stuff like that. So this is something that I've always had a passion for since I was a kid. Once I, retired from overseas, I had my own training academy in Michigan, and I got away from that and kind of passed that down to my younger brother. I wanted to start my own media company, which is Sports Talk 2319. Now, the 2319 is a numerical representation of the adversity that I had to overcome playing sports. So 2,319 points is how many points that I scored in college. So that's what I named my platform after. And I just wanted to really shed light on the game in a different way that I started to watch it take form. And it some of it was good, but some of it wasn't, to the point where sports has to be told in its purity.
Yep.
And I just started to see that there wasn't a lot of purity in the game anymore from a media standpoint. It was very narrative driven. And I just felt like I could create a platform that would shed light on the game in its purest form. And that's kind of what made me start that.
I want to, briefly touch on your actual playing career. Because if you look at your, basketball reference page, when you go to your senior year, now this is what year? Like 99, 2000? Is that or
2000,
right?
2001 season. Yeah.
Yeah. So you took 6 2-point field goals a game, 9 3-point field goals a game, and you had 6 free throws a game.
Yeah.
You look at that now, you say that's a good shot profile, right?
Yeah.
Not back then. That
No.
wasn't the norm, right?
Oh, no.
What was that just your game? Was it your coach pushing you to play to your strengths? What was it that had you kind of ahead of the curve as a player? Because that you're ahead of that
Yeah.
profile is not, what everybody had back then.
That's a great question. You know, that was basically a credit to my father, really just my upbringing. And my father always pushed me to be special and to be different. So me being small, I knew that having the gifts that I had, I wanted to maximize that. Even at the time in college, what I was doing, and in high school and in middle school, it was always kind of taboo what I was doing. It was like little guards, they're not supposed to do this. They're not supposed to score a lot of points. They're supposed to be passers. They're supposed to be, whereas I was raised to just be great at your gifts. I was given gifts. I had the gift to score. So I wanted to nurture that gift and I wanted to put it on full display. But it wasn't a selfish gift. It was a gift that led us to becoming the most winningest team in the 4-year span in my college. And also it led off to me, receiving tons of individual accolades, but I couldn't have done that without the supporting cast of great teammates that I had. And also my coaching staff who kind of supported it. But it was just a weird time because I was kind of ostracized for it because it wasn't the norm back then. And now when you look at today's game, everybody's playing that way.
Right. It almost feels like back then, at that point, they used the term chucker a lot. for shooting,
Yeah, like
right?
ball hog,
Yeah,
chucker, selfish, gunner. Like
gunner. Yeah.
I've lived under all of those titles, and none of them fits me. You know, if you
Mhm.
dig into my stats, um, I had a person tell me this. This is a funny story. This was about 3 months ago, and somebody had sent me a direct message on Instagram and was like, you know, a lot of people. I was talking to some guys at the barbershop, and everybody thinks you're a ball hog. And I was like, well, if you feel that way, I want you to go back and look at my statistics
Mhm.
and let me know. So he went back and looked at my statistics, and he came back, he said, no, you actually passed the ball too much. If you look at my stats, I'm the all-time leading scorer at my college with 2,319 points, and I only averaged 12 field goal attempts a game in my career.
Mhm.
So I only shot the ball 12 times a game. That's not a ball.
No, and that's not a ball hog at all. Nowadays you'd be shooting, 19 shots.
Oh yeah.
With the way that we go off
Yes.
analytics, right? You'd be at
Yes.
like 12 threes a game instead of 9. And hey, 22,319, that's buckets. That's buckets, man. How do you think that your playing career has helped you as an analyst? And have you ever ran into a situation where maybe it hurt you as an analyst?
I think it's helped me tremendously because I mean I was born into the game. I'm a coach's son, right?
Mhm.
So I was born into basketball. So I've seen or come across, played against pretty much every type of basketball player there is. Tall, quick, short, slow, medium, fast, athletic, strong, skinny, big, powerful. I've played with all type of different coaches, all type of different teammates. So my playing career and my experience helps me because I'm able to locate what I'm looking at.
Mhm.
Doesn't take me but 10 seconds to figure out what that player is.
Right.
I don't think it really has hurt me to the point where I've it's been anything a detriment to my career.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know if hurt's the right word. Has it ever been like, I've seen this situation, so maybe like that I've experienced, and like you projected that same thing forward, but since it's a different situation, maybe it doesn't work out the same way. Have you ever run into anything like that?
not really, not yet.
Mhm.
I have not. It's really has been all beneficial for me. I haven't been right every single time.
No, you can't be.
But that's just, I mean, nobody's gonna get everything right. But I haven't been hurt by it
Yeah.
yet. So I mean, I look at it like this. It's the same thing for being a lawyer, being a doctor, you know, having being an engineer. Like there's a criteria to get to a certain level to be called a certain whatever that in that field is. And I believe that I check all the boxes to be called a prospect specialist.
Mm.
I check off all the boxes for it. It's not just my playing career. A lot of people get caught up in thinking that just because you play means you know the sport, and that's not true
No.
because I know people that have played that have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
But for me specifically, personally, it helps me because I played the point guard position. I was small, so I had to
You have to
really
use your mind.
dominate the
Yeah.
game by outthinking people, by studying film. I wasn't jumping over people, dunking over people. I had to I had to really dig deep in my mind. So that attribute helps me when I'm looking at the game of basketball overall.
It's funny, you said you're small, so like you've run into, especially with all your experience, I'm sure, guys that are 6'10", 6'11", 7 foot, they're playing because they were blessed with height, right? Like they're not in love
Correct.
with the game. When you didn't have to be a ball player, right? Like you had to push yourself and like you
Yes.
said, outthink everybody. And it's the
Yes.
passion and doing the film session, doing the film work.
Yes.
And that clearly, when you're breaking down prospects games, right?
Yes.
Film work is that's where it's at, right? And being on
Yes.
the court, you know what to look for.
Absolutely. So it kind of plays in my favor.
Yeah.
It gives me that advantage over a person that may be a really good prospect analyst,
Mhm.
but you cannot substitute not playing the game. There's
Yeah.
no substitute for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's it's almost like me trying to tell a doctor something about surgery just because I've watched it on TV,
Mhm.
but the doctor I'm telling has actually performed surgery before.
Yeah.
So there's an element that that needs to be filled in order to really be good at that. And that's what I'm saying, where I check all the boxes because I have that element all filled.
We live in a world now, due to the current situation in the world where people, they like podcasts, they love Zoom sessions. Everybody's doing a Zoom, no matter what your profession is. So people now have become accustomed to sitting down and watching or listening to long form content. One of the things that is really cool that you've been doing is you've been putting out long form. Well, you're putting out, I think you put one full one out. You got a couple coming out, right?
Yep.
Long form kind of narrative, breaking down with these legendary, players, these Hall of Fame level players.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about Chris Webber. Here's a guy who everybody loves his story. ESPN did a documentary. He wouldn't be a part of it,
Mm-mm.
right?
No.
But he's willing to tell his story to you.
Yeah.
Why is that? What is it about you that these people, they trust, they trust you. They're willing to put their story in your hand. What is it about, the way that you approach them, the way that you handle your content, that they're willing to do that? Because that's
Yeah.
a lot of trust. That's a lot of
Tons
trust,
of us.
because these big companies, ESPN, Blue Drip, whatever, they got big teams, right?
Yeah.
They can do really cool things with all
Yeah.
the, but they're trusting you to put their story out. What is it? Why are they doing that?
Man, first, I mean, that's a great question. I was totally overwhelmed when talking to Chris Webber, Isaiah
Yeah,
Thomas, Chauncey Billups, and I have a long list of other guys coming up that I won't even say right now that are in line to
you
get
got a
their
lot of
story
Detroit
told.
guys.
Yeah, it's funny. It's kind of worked out that way, but
Yeah.
the next batch of guys I have don't have any Detroit ties really.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of worked out that way, and I love it that way.
Mhm.
I just believe that Sports Talk 2319 stands for integrity, organic, pure sports. And that's what I'm about. At the end of the day, when you're an athlete and you have a powerful story and you want it to be told in its purest form, there's not no outlets for that. Sports Talk 2319 is the outlet for that. On top of that, it's the respect factor that um, the players have for me that I have for them. I am them, they are me, because I'm one of them.
Mhm.
I'm not a media member.
Right.
I'm not, I'm a former player.
Yeah.
And specifically Chris Webber, I grew up watching Chris Webber. Chris Webber was one of my idols growing up. He was a mythic figure.
Mhm.
I was 10, 11 years old watching him. So for him to watch my career as a player, Chris knows me as a basketball player,
Yep.
and he knows me as a person. And I can say that for Chauncey Billups, Isaiah Thomas, and so forth. They know me as a player, and they know me as a person, and they know what my brand stands for. That's why they want to talk to me. And when you get these stories, like you said, these are Hall of Fame stories.
Mhm.
You can't mess these things up, man.
It's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure to tell the Isaiah Thomas story.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure to tell a Chris Webber story. It's a lot of pressure to tell a Chauncey Billups story, because these are Hall of Famers.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I'm elated that they trust me. And the Chris Webber story is going to be phenomenal. The Chauncey Billups story is going to be phenomenal. And if people haven't seen the Isaiah Thomas one, they can see that as well on my YouTube channel, Sports Talk 2319. But I'm just really having fun with it.
You mentioned like you're not media, right? Like
Right.
you look at when you think of like traditional media, you know, you're thinking like suit and tie,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah.
but you know, what's cool is it feels like people are getting tired of that a
Yeah.
little bit, you know? And part of the reason that another reason you're able to do this is because you've built a community.
Yeah.
And I grew up, I worked for a long time in music,
Yeah.
touring all over the world. And the one thing I took away from that is the power of community. You know, because if you don't have people that feel like they're a part of something,
Yeah.
right? It's easy to just click next. There's so much content,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That community breeds loyalty. And part of that is you interact with, people on Twitter.
Yeah.
You aren't unattainable. A lot of the media people, they feel unattainable. Is that, something that you are cognizant of? Like you want to be a part of this community, not just put stuff out and let the community build, like you want to actually or is that just something that it's like your personality and you wouldn't, do it any other way?
Yeah, it's for me. It's a part of me wanting to be a part of my own community.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at my background, my father started a community center back in 1979. My parents have always been pillars of their own community. So when I started to build Sports Talk 2319, I didn't want to build something and then stand on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to build something and be a part of being part of it. And so
Yeah.
for me, I make sure that I'm interacting with people online. I try to respond to every DM that I possibly can, because I want people to understand that they're a part of this new regime of media from a pure and organic standpoint. Like I'm not totally against what's going on in the media, but I do think that there's an oversaturation of narrative agenda based sports that are misleading so many people that it's created a division.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm trying to do is bring a purity back to sports, from football, basketball are the main two, because I just believe so many players out there, players plural, stories have been kind of tampered with to fit an agenda.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to try to move units or get tons of likes. What I'm trying to do is put the purest form of sports I can out there to the community that we've built, and allow that to take a life of its own.
I want to give you what I think is one of the biggest examples of your community. Now, you mentioned earlier everybody gets things wrong. Like my biggest draft miss was Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I thought he was going to be a good player,
Yeah.
but I was like, yeah, he should probably go around where he went. You look back at that draft, he should have been way higher. I didn't think
Yeah.
his shot, off the bounce game was going to translate as quickly as it did.
Right.
I got that wrong.
Happens.
But one of the biggest examples I think of your community coming together, I'm gonna ask you about Luka, but not in the way that like I'm saying like how could you get that wrong?
Yeah.
Whenever you say something about a prospect, it's a flood of comments from a lot of haters and all Luka this, Luka that, right? I actually think that it's a turn into a positive for you from an outsider perspective. Because what it's done is the people that rock with you, your community, they want to almost moderate the comments sometimes.
Yeah.
And to me, that is like a clear example, because when you get to a certain point, you're always going to have people that are trying to pull you down, right?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to build the tallest building, they're trying to blow the building up.
Yep. Yeah. That's true.
To me, when I see that, that's what I think the power of your community is. Like, they trust you. They know, hey, you got something wrong. You get something wrong, right? But we know the work you put in, so it's okay. We're still gonna rock with you going forward, and we're gonna come to
Yeah.
got your back. So to me, I always think that's interesting. I think that that narrative about you has turned into a positive in a way. That's the way I look at it. Do you see that at all?
Yeah, I see it. I see that now. It took a while. Like, I mean, it's been going on for what, almost going on 3 years
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
But it's gotten to the point where, a lot of, my community and the people that I interact with understand my heart. They understand how I go about my work, my craft. It's like, and I always refer it to like shooting free throws. Like, as long as your percentage is pretty high, you can live with a miss.
yeah,
Like when Steph Curry goes to the free throw line, if he misses, it's like, that's fine. He's going to
yeah,
make 80%, 85% of the rest. So I think my community have really done a great job of defending me. And I have taken that negative tone towards me and turned it into a positive. And it's almost a compliment now. Like anytime I mention something, there's a screenshot of something I said about Luka in every comment. And it
yeah.
just lets them know that, to me, that they value my opinion. Like they're mad that I didn't get it right. Cause it was like, man, why didn't you get Luka right? And it's
Yeah.
like, man, look, man, I'm sorry. Like the kid is really good. I've told the kid to his face. I think he's tremendous. And I've gotten other kids wrong too. So it's part of it. And I do just thank my community for always, having my back and understanding that if I'm wrong or right, here's my saying.
Yeah.
There's a difference between being basketball wrong and being narrative wrong. And I can always look at myself in the mirror and get my 8 hours of sleep every night, knowing that, okay, I got it wrong because of my basketball approach. It
Yep.
wasn't I didn't get it wrong trying to push a narrative. It was just I was wrong in the basketball sense. There's times where I've went to the park in a gym and thought a certain guy couldn't play, and all of a sudden he could play. It
Mm-hmm.
happens.
Yeah.
It happens. So that's what happened with Luka. I didn't think he was going to be as dominant as he is in the NBA, and he has. And the Dallas Mavericks is a great place for him, and I'm happy to see him do his thing.
You mentioned like you've gotten other people wrong before, right? If you're sitting in a film session with a coach, your team, your coach is going to be in the film session breaking down missed defensive rotations,
Yeah,
an open shooter or whatever. What do you learn when you do miss on a prospect? When you go back and say, "What did I miss?" Like,
yeah.
what have you learned about evaluations based off those misses? Because the best way to improve your weakness is to go back and look at what you
Yeah,
got wrong, right?
yeah. Really, when you miss, you go back, you dig back into the film and say, okay, what did I miss? That so a lot of the times when I miss, there's two reasons why I miss
Okay.
a lot. It's uh the translation from college to NBA.
Yep.
That's one. And two is the mechanics of the game as far as the scenery where they go
Mhm.
to.
Yeah.
For an
Where they
example,
end up. Yeah.
a lot of people get at me about missing on Mo Bamba. I
I'm
was
with you
really
on
high.
I'm with you on Mo Bamba. I like Mo. I like Mo
I
Bamba.
was I was high on Mo Bamba coming out of college, and I said that he had an Anthony Davis type of skill set. So a lot of times with my breakdowns, people like to twist my words up. So I had people say, "You said he was going to be like Anthony Davis." I never said he was going to be Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
I said he had an Anthony Davis type skill set.
Yep.
Doesn't mean I said he was going to
No.
be Anthony Davis. So my point is him getting drafted to Orlando, it was the scenery
Mm-hmm.
that is the reason why I missed. If Mo Bamba goes to the Atlanta Hawks, if he goes to the Milwaukee Bucks, if he goes to the Indiana Pacers, then my evaluation is correct.
Mm-hmm.
But he went to the wrong team. So it looks like my evaluation was wrong. So two things, translation to the NBA. When you look at Luka, it was the translation that I didn't account for.
Mm-hmm.
What he did in Europe, he was only a 13, 14-point scorer in Europe. I didn't think that he would go from 14 points to 30 in the NBA. So it was the translation that I got wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Mo Bamba, I got wrong because he got drafted to the wrong team.
Yeah,
That doesn't take a doesn't take
an all-star.
He was playing behind an all-star. I didn't know Vooch was going to turn into an all-star.
Yeah.
So now, again, his skill set is still the same. He's still a great shot blocker. He still can knock down threes. He's still a great one-on-one defender. Still those same Anthony Davis type skill sets that he has. Never said he was going to be Anthony Davis.
Yep. I'm with you. I went through something like that similar. I just did a breakdown on Sam Merrill from Utah State. Right? I think that kid could play. I get it. He's 24 or whatever. And I was, one of the things I mentioned, I said, if you squint really hard, stylistically, he looks like Luka a little bit. Just stylistically, right? And somebody came at me, they're like, that's the craziest comparison ever. I was like, well, it's not a comparison.
Right.
He's 6'5",
and he's pretty big.
Luka's 6'8", and he was 19. So sometimes people do twist the words. It's that happens. I feel you on that. You call yourself Yoda. In the background, you got the Yoda logo. How'd that start?
Yeah, I don't call myself that. It was a name given to me.
Anointed.
It was given to me, and I love it. Because I grew up as a Star Wars kid. My mom loved Star Wars. I grew up on it, and it was funny because Yoda was always my favorite character as a kid. I just love the fact that he was always giving wisdom to Luke Skywalker. So as I got older and I started my own training academy, Skills Unlimited, it was a high school coach that told me, he was like, you know who you remind me of when you're teaching all these kids? And I'm like, who? He's like, you're like Yoda, and these are like your Jedi. And he was like, I'm going to start calling you Yoda because anytime I need you to talk to my son, you always give him so, great wisdom. And Yoda is like a person of wisdom. That's how I view it.
Yep.
And he gave me that name, and it started to stick with me throughout the basketball world. So I just kind of embraced it because I was a kid that loved Star Wars, and I was like, you know what, I like this.
It's a dope nickname.
So yeah, it was a cool nickname. I've been called a lot worse. So I took it and ran with it, and it's something that I love. And I'm a Star Wars person, so it's fitting.
Yeah, for sure. I like that. I don't think a lot of people know that. All right, so here's one thing that I need you to help me understand.
All right,
when people post stuff on Twitter, a lot of times you'll respond with a GIF of the late great Tupac Shakur birdie from above the rim.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of times when you feel like you were right, you made a point, right? That cocky, smoking the cigar. Birdie loses and he dies at the end.
Yeah.
What is it? Just you like Pac? Character.
I love Pac. Above the Rim was my favorite movie in high school, and I love the character Birdie. So that's kind of like my alter ego on Twitter. It's Birdie. Birdie is the dude that's like, he was like, all the basketball players are playing, and he told you that they were going to win. And every time they score a basket, they would flash the camera to Birdie, and he was, So it's just kind of my fun way of just making people laugh, and also it's my tribute for my love for Tupac. So I loved him as an artist, but I also loved him as an actor. So it's more of a tribute, and I love Birdie, even though he died at the end of the movie, but in that scene right there, he was having such a good time because his team was winning, and he threw the cigar in his mouth.
Look, I have a podcast called Nothing But Netflix where I break down basketball films. We did Above the Rim like a month ago, and I got to say, look, I know he's not traditional, but I think he ranks pretty high on the all-time basketball movie coaches list.
Yeah,
He's
Birdie had it going on, man. Birdie got him uniforms, and like, hey, Birdie was the man in the Above the Rim, man. I don't care what nobody says.
He was playing chess, not checkers. He set, he was setting him up with the shoes from the beginning. He was playing chess. I love Birdie too. What is your end goal for your platform? Where do you envision this 5 years from now?
I don't have an end goal. That's the end goal. I don't have one.
Taking it wherever it takes you.
I just love sports.
Yep.
I love sports. I love telling stories. I love educating. And it's just, I don't have a written out end goal. Like, I want to get to here. I love the game, and I trust that the basketball gods will deliver me wherever I need to be. That's my end goal.
Like we said, sports media has changed. The
Yeah.
landscape has shifted. You don't have to go to journalism school anymore.
No.
You don't have to go do an internship. If you're good, you can make it if you work hard enough, right?
Yeah.
What advice would you give to anybody out there looking to break into business in a non-traditional way?
Study the non-traditional people. And secondly, love what you're doing, because when you love it, it never feels like you're working. Love it. Study the non-traditional people, because media is only going to go so far as the players allow it to go.
Yes.
And we're getting to the point where the players are now in power of their own platforms, and they can choose who they want to break their stories, who they want to tell their life stories to. It's not like it was 10 years ago where players felt obligated to go to these big platforms. Now the players are going to other platforms that fit who they are, so they can get their message across. So stay true to the game, love it, and you'll never feel like it's work.
Awesome, man. Rashad, thank you for doing this, man. This was a pleasure. I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to the draft. Keep doing what you're doing, and appreciate you taking the time.
I will. Talk soon.